So, Dr. Paul, this is Michael again. Let's talk about Rand Paul, your son, who many of our listeners know is running for the U.S. Senate seat in Kentucky as a Republican. His primary is this coming next Tuesday, May 18th. How important is his race in your view?
I think it's real important. Of course, personally it's important because you always want to see your children succeed. And we have that personal reason in the family because the whole family will be there next Tuesday. So that's one thing. But the second thing is, I think it's a little bit more than just a family event, because I think it is very, very important because it is being looked at nationally. I think he represents in a seat once again taking on the establishment, and he's had to deal with a lot. All the established senators up in Washington, not all of them, but so many of them that, interestingly enough, the ones that donated to his opposition were the ones that voted for the bailouts, and they're very much entrenched with what's going on. But that's been helpful to him. So I think it'll send a powerful message. After the race with Bennett in Utah yesterday, a 28-year incumbent from I think big things are going up, and this will just add fuel to the fire. I think it's going to energize a whole base, and hopefully it will help all the things that I have been doing, and which so many of us have been interested in. That is just promoting the cause of liberty.
How is Rand doing in the polls right now?
Well, as we speak, it was just yesterday, there was a poll came out, an independent poll, not his, and they had him 16 points ahead. He's not convinced they're that far ahead, and I said, well, when he first got ahead in the race, at the beginning he was way behind, and then the poll astounded everybody. He was 10 points ahead. So my only advice, which is very rare, to him, I said, just run as if you're 10 points behind. Don't ever think you're 10 points ahead. So even though they're ahead, right now one of their biggest concerns is, ballot security. Kentucky isn't the cleanest state in the world for some of their election, and here his opponent is the Secretary of State. He counts the votes. But there's been a history in Kentucky like it has been in various states, Louisiana, Illinois, and even Texas. I'm convinced that I lost a very close election in 1976 that was filled with fraudulent votes, but we were never able to get to the courts to prove it.
Is Rand being openly opposed by the Republican Party machine?
Well, I mean, for weeks now, McConnell, who's the other senator and the leader in the Senate, has been on the air campaigning pretty hard against him. This guy with strange ideas, dangerous person, that sort of thing, and implying that he has these libertarian beliefs and this kind of stuff.
Well, tell us about...
He became very open, and he's sort of apologetic. He says, I don't usually get involved in these primaries, but this is very important. So he has really put a lot on the line for going out so far on a limb for him.
Tell us about, if you wouldn't mind, please tell us about Rand's economic education. I know you to be very, very educated in economics, and that's, I think, one of the strengths that governs your policy outlook.
Yeah, I think he's very well educated. I know he's read Human Action. He knows all the Austrian economists, and he's very, very good at explaining the Federal Reserve, and does it quite frequently on the campaign trail. So I think he has a good handle on economic policy.
How can our listeners help Rand win?
Well, right now what he needs are people in Kentucky if they're near, and to help to get the vote out and do those things. If they're not in Kentucky, phone calling in there. And he even sent a last-minute fundraiser again to make sure he stays on radio and television. And I'm sure he can be found pretty easily on a Rand Paul website.
One of our listeners, a young guy by the name of Elia Finkelstein, asked, when you speak with people who believe that socialism is the solution to our problems, what do you tell them in an attempt to change their minds?
Well, the people say that socialism is the problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, these people that he's running in into say that socialism is the solution to our
Oh, the
problems.
socialism is the solution. Oh, yeah, well, why doesn't he just read a little bit of history? That more or less was the conclusion of the 20th century, that socialism was a failure, and they've sort of given up in conventional socialism, but they still have what I call corporatism and government partnerships with big business, and they've also used the environmental movement to take over control. They don't take over ownership, but they might as well. They take over absolute control. You can hardly do anything without permission with about 10 or 15 government agencies. So all we have to do is look at the 20th century and find out that the freer the markets, the more prosperity. And it's pretty weird that now we get into a problem, and instead of looking at the positive side of free markets, they say, oh, it was that little bit of free market that was left that kept us going is at fault. And that's an important question, and a conclusion is important because, like I said, in the 30s, they came to the conclusion that free enterprise and the gold standard gave us our trouble, and they're trying to do that again. Matter of fact, they're having another commission, one of these emergency, a crisis commission, taken off after the Pecora Commission in the 1930s. They came to that conclusion, and they're not asking any of the free market economists. They're not on the panel, and they don't get any witnesses that want to argue our case. So I'm afraid that they could come down and decide, well, we do need more government, and certainly the administration right now is in that direction. So hopefully we can wake them up, because this is the forefront of the anger and the frustration of the average person, and why these Tea Party movements are building up, because they don't believe that we need more government, we need socialism. What they're saying, enough is enough. And the most interesting thing is that it's not even popular anymore to brag that you can bring home the bacon, which I think is fascinating, because a lot of people over the years wondered how I ever could get reelected, because I never voted for a cent of money I never voted essentially for a cent of money going to anybody. And when I had to vote for flood funds in our district or hurricane relief funds, I mean, on principle, I would vote against them. But it never hurt me nearly as much as I thought it would, or what other people thought. So maybe the American people are a lot further ahead of the conventional wisdom of the politicians.
We will be back with our exclusive interview with Dr. Ron Paul right after the break. Please stay with us, and thank you very much for listening.